That was then. This is now, day 7. I followed the directions Mark gave me. We went into this old part of town, which used to be a really classy place maybe 30 or 40 years ago, with these huge old houses that were probably a big deal when they were built. They just looked gloomy now. Most of them were divided into flats. On Mark's say so, I pulled into a driveway in front of one of them. There was a sign hanging from the porch ceiling that said "Love" in red and green letters. "He's here?" I asked because I wasn't sure what was going on. Last time I was here, he was. Mark got out of the car. You can tell somebody is familiar with the place. Mark had been here many times before. Come on. I got out of the car, wondering what in the world Mark could have been doing here. Mark didn't knock. He just opened the front door and walked in. I followed him. The whole inside of the house was freaked out with posters. A girl with long, streaked blonde hair, wearing blue jeans and a paint-splattered shirt, was lying on a beat-up couch. She had the deadest, most colorless face I had ever seen. "Hello, Cat," she said to Mark. She knew him. She didn't call everybody Cat. "Peace, baby," Mark said. I tried not to laugh. I dig hippies, okay. I mean, they've got some great ideas, but sometimes it was funny. "Freaked out?" Mark said politely, as if he were saying, "How are you these days?" "Way out, man." She was staring at the ceiling so intently that I glanced up there just to make sure the answer to the universe wasn't written across it. If it was, I couldn't see it. Maybe she could. Mark stepped over a stringless guitar and went upstairs. I stumbled after him, looking around. Somebody was in the kitchen singing. Each of the steps was painted a different color. It was a good effect, but they were awful dirty. Mark stepped into a bedroom. There were about 6 or 7 kids in it. One kid was lying on a bed, watching his fingernails. The others were sitting cross-legged in a circle, talking about some book. I hadn't read it, so I didn't get the conversation, but these kids were not dumb. They were all in blue jeans and old shirts and fringed vests. A couple of them were smoking grass. "Hi, Cat," a guy with a beard and a flowered shirt said. "I'm looking for Eminem," Mark said. "You seen him? Baby freak? He ain't been around today. The kid's flying, man. He's going to crash." "You didn't let him take anything, did you?" I said. This may have been against house rules, as nobody has said anything to me yet, but this place was getting on my nerves. "There isn't any letting here," this fat chick says. "We're free." I looked her over with the practiced eye of a playboy and popped off with something really good. Then I raised 2 fingers and said, "Peace." This seemed to earn their forgiveness, but they all went back to their literary discussion. Now the kid on the bed was painting his fingernails with green watercolor. On the way out, we passed the blonde chick. She was reading a book and smoking grass. "You seen Baby Freak?" Mark asked. She shook her head. "Sorry. See you around, Cat." Even sitting up, she looked dead. When we got back into the car, I said, "You dating her?" "Sometimes. Like the lady said, they're free." I thought about that a long time. I am the first to admit I've got hang-ups. I don't think I've ever considered myself really free, but I'm not sure I consider them free either. "Just because it ain't your bag, don't knock it," Mark said after we had driven in silence for a while. I didn't say anything. "Grass, rum, both are a high." "Yeah, well, listen, man. Rum's going to maybe get me a weekend in the drunk tank. Grass could get me 5 years in the pen. That law ain't necessarily right. It's the way things are." I was puzzled. I had never known Mark to smoke pot. I wondered why he was defending it. "I don't smoke it, so quit worrying," Mark said, reading my mind as usual. "I just don't like to see you judging people." "What the heck is bugging you?" I didn't say anything. Mark was quiet. Then he said, "You remember when the socials used to come through here looking for somebody to beat up?" "Yeah." "You remember when me and you beat up that hippie kid in the park?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm a tough punk, Brian, but I ain't dumb." We drove the rest of the way home in silence. I picked Kathy up at the hospital. I didn't tell her about going to the hippie house to look for Eminem. I didn't see any sense in getting her all upset. After all, I hadn't found him. We drove up and down the ribbon, then stopped by the park on the way home. This was becoming standard procedure. I was getting more and more serious about Kathy, and this was really strange for me. I had always had a love him and leave him attitude, even with Angela. I guess it was more a pride thing than a love thing. I still hadn't told Kathy I loved her, though. It was like my never thanking Charlie for letting me use his car. It was something I just couldn't do when it meant anything. "Hey, Kathy," I said while we were on the way home, "if I got a ring, would you wear it?" "Yeah," she said. That's how we started going steady. After I dropped Kathy off at her house, I headed for Terry Jones's place. I was supposed to pick up Mark there, but when I got to the house, nobody was home. Terry's parents were out of town for the weekend, which normally meant it was party and poker time at the Joneses. I figured everybody had gone out scouting for booze and broads, so I sat down on the front steps to wait. It was a cool night, but not too cool. It was getting to be spring. It had been a real weird winter. Last fall, Mark and me had thought just alike, as one person. Now we couldn't even talk. Charlie had been alive and griping about our Coke bill. I had been a hustler both with pool and chicks. Eminem had been reading Newsweek and getting his kicks babysitting. Now everything was different. While I was sitting there, smoking and thinking, a car pulled up. I thought it was some guys coming to party and so forth, so I didn't pay any attention. The four guys were standing right in front of me before I came to realize that two of them were Tim and Curly Shepherd. I thought you guys were in the cooler, I said pleasantly, just like I didn't know they were here for the sole purpose of stomping out my guts. We're out now, Tim said. He scared me. He was what I would call a rough guy. Curly was mostly mouth, but Tim backed up anything he said. He really was a hood. I know most people call any kid from over here on the east side a hood, but Tim really was. I guess so, I said, still smoking, not blowing my cool. If I kept them talking long enough, maybe Mark and Terry and God knows who else would show up. Seen Angela lately? Tim said. Curly was keeping his mouth shut. Even he was awed by his big brother. There was something about Tim Shepherd, his scarred face, his fighter's slouch, the flickering of his black eyes, that really let you know he meant business. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I saw her over on the ribbon last night, and she went for a drive with me. I decided I didn't need to drag Mark into this. It was plain they weren't worried about him. No kidding. Did you know Angel got her hair cut this morning? At least that's what people say. She told me something different. I was sweating. I could feel it running down my back and wetting my palms, and my cigarette was shaking, so I ground it out on the porch. But I sounded calm as I had. What's she telling you? She says you got her drunk and cut her hair off. That the truth? Yeah, that's the truth. And I'm sorry it happened. I decided to tell it straight for once, without all this hedging and playing the game. It was a rotten thing to do, and I'm sorry. You ain't half as sorry as you're going to be, Tim said, and the two guys I didn't know rushed me, pinned my arms, and held me while Tim and Curly took turns punching me. I passed out finally, but not as soon as I had hoped I would. When I came to, Mark was wiping my face off with a wet rag. Brian, you okay? Don't move, man. I bit back a groan because I could tell there were other guys in the room. Normally I wouldn't have to knock myself out playing the tough guy for just Mark, but I did have a rep to keep. What happened? Who did this to you? Shepards, I said finally, but it hurt to draw the breath to say it. Something was stabbing me in the sides. My whole face was throbbing and I couldn't open my eyes. They were swollen shut. There was a funny taste in my mouth. I guessed it was blood. You want to go to the hospital? Mark asked. He sounded so worried that I felt sorry for him. No, I said. I didn't want to go anywhere. I felt that if I moved, I'd fall apart. Can I stay here? I figured I was in Terry's house somewhere. I could tell I was lying on a bed. Sure, man, you stay here. I recognized Terry's voice. Brother, you look like you've been through a meat grinder. That's what it feels like, too, I said, even though this witticism cost me more stabbing pains in my sides. Reputation is one heck of a thing to have. You got to kill yourself to keep it. I called the old lady, Mark said. Then we'll go look up the Shepards. Mark, I said, I want to talk to you, personal like. Sure, buddy, clear out, you guys. And because he was Mark, they obeyed him. Listen, it hurts like heck to talk, so I'm only going to say it once. And I don't want to argue. Sure, Mark's voice sounded puzzled. I wished I could see him. I knew he wasn't going to dig what I had to say. I could tell he was sitting on the edge of the bed, and I reached for where his hand should have been and caught it. I don't want anybody to fight the Shepards. What? I don't want to keep this up. This getting even jazz. It's stupid, and I'm sick of it, and it keeps going in circles. I have had it, so if you're planning any get even mugging, forget it. I was trying to keep my voice from trembling with pain, but not only did talking hurt my sides, it was killing my face. I got you, Brian, Mark said after a silence. You just take it easy. He left to call Mom, and I heard him yelling at the rest of the guys to keep the record player down. He stayed all night on the other side of the bed, guarding me. Chapter 9. Mark drove me to the hospital the next day, and I got 15 stitches in my face and had my ribs taped. And as luck would have it, I got the same doctor that had sewed up Mark a few months before when he had been busted with a bottle. He remembered Mark all right. Most people did. He gave us a disgusted look and said, "Don't you punks ever do anything besides fight?" Mark growled something real cute, but I couldn't get mad. I felt sick, ashamed of myself, even though I hadn't done anything. All I could think about was Mike's getting beat up for driving a black girl home. I kept remembering him saying he didn't hate the guys who did it. Well, I didn't hate the Shepards either. I tried to explain this to Mark as we drove home. I was so wrapped up in what I was trying to get across to him that I was startled when Mark suddenly burst out. "What are you trying to do to me, Brian?" "What?" I said, confused. Mark had turned white, and his voice was shaking as if he was about to cry. I couldn't believe that. I had never seen Mark cry except from physical pain. "How do you think I feel, man? You won't let me get the Shepards for you, and here you go giving me this song and dance about how you don't feel bad about getting beat up. You think I don't know they beat you up for something I did? And here you are practically saying you had it coming, when it was me who cut Angela's hair, it was me who planned it, and me who did it, and it's you who gets beat up for it. Like the dang fool Mike. He feels like he had it coming, feels guilty for something somebody else did. Man, that is sick. How do you think I feel, finding you lying there in the yard? I knew it was the Shepards. If they had killed you, it would have been my fault. This is eating me up, Brian, and you won't even let me get even for you." He was crying. I just went sick inside. "Mark, it ain't your fault. It's just that I'm sick of fighting. I'm sick of this circle of beating up people and getting beat up. It's stupid." I reached over and gave him an easy punch on the shoulder. "I ain't dead, man. There's nothing to worry about." Mark took a deep breath, and even though his voice was normal, he was gripping the steering wheel so hard that his knuckles were white. "I don't know what's the matter with me. I never worry about what if. I never did until me and Terry came home. I found you lying there smashed up. Then I think, what if? And look what happens to me." He shrugged. "You don't want to get even with the Shepards. That's your business." We just couldn't get through to each other. He didn't understand why I didn't dig fights anymore, and I didn't understand how he could accept everything that came along without question, without wanting to change it. Mom nearly had a fit when she saw me. She was well by then, back at her job. I almost gave her a relapse. I'd never been so messed up. A black eye she could take, stitches in the lips she could take, smashed ribs she could take, but not all at the same time. I was feeling so lousy that I didn't mind her fussing at me. I pretended that it was her who made me go to bed, but I was glad to be there. "Want me to call Kathy?" Mark asked, after I had been put to bed. "Yeah, you mind?" He could get to a payphone and I couldn't. "Sure, I mind. Beating up the Shepards would be easier, but for you, buddy, I'll do it." He gave me his famous Mark grin. "I know she'll be glad to hear from me." I tried to grin back at him, but it was difficult. It's pretty lousy to have the two people you care about most hate each other. I must have dozed off after Mark left. I felt pretty bad. The painkiller shots had worn off, and I was running a fever. I don't know how long I was asleep, but when I came to, Kathy was sitting next to the bed. "Hi, Brian," she said, and her voice and her face were so serious that for a day's second I couldn't figure out if it was Kathy or Eminem. I really felt dizzy and drunk and confused. "How do you feel?" she asked. When I couldn't say anything, I just lay there and looked at her stupid-like. "Oh, all right," I said, which made a lot of sense. "I'm glad you're here." "Are you?" she said, and she was crying. There, I had both her and Mark crying within 24 hours. I must be really something. "Kathy, I'm real glad you are here," I said. "I love you." "Okay," she sobbed, "okay." Then she reached over and held my hand. I took a quivering breath and looked at the ceiling. That hadn't been so hard after all. If I could do that, maybe there were a few other things I could take care of. "Well," Kathy said, finally gulping back her tears, "your mother says you'll be all right in a couple of days." She sort of half laughed. "You just look so awful, Brian." "You look great," I said. She didn't really, I guess, because you never do see a girl who looks good while she's crying, except in the movies. But to me, she looked good. "I'll be fine in a day or two. Then we can go find Eminem. I got a lead on him," I said. My mind was clearing up. "Really?" Like I hoped this took her mind off me for a little while. Like I hoped, not much. "Yeah, Mark says he's seen him at the hippie commune house." Kathy looked shocked. "One of those free love places?" "I don't think that's the right word for it." I couldn't help grinning. "Anyway, he's been staying there. I went over to look for him yesterday, I think. I was still a little confused as to what day it was or what time. He wasn't there then, but maybe we can find him. Don't worry, the place wasn't that bad. He could have been in worse places." "All right." She smiled at me like I knew everything on earth. Like whatever I said, and it really said went, and it really made me feel good. "We'll go look for him when you get better." She reached over and gave me a quick, light kiss. Because of the stitches in my lip, this hurt, but not much. I took a couple of days sick leave from work. I didn't want to go to work looking like some prize fighter, but as soon as I was able, I took the car and went for a drive by myself. I had been thinking about a lot of things. Kathy, Mark, Eminem, Charlie, and I drove around for 2 hours before I finally made up my mind. I drove out to the cemetery, the cheap cemetery where people who don't have money get buried. I hadn't gone to Charlie's funeral, but I knew where he was buried. I finally found his grave. This was not easy since there wasn't much of a marker. There weren't any big headstones in the whole place. I went and stood in front of his barren grave. No flowers, no nothing. Just the place where what was left of Charlie lay. I said out loud, "Thanks for letting me use your car, Charlie. Thanks for saving my life." This wasn't hard to do. I wish I'd done it when he could have heard me. I don't know, maybe it was a dumb thing to do, but I sure felt better. I picked up Kathy 2 nights later, and we went looking for Eminem. Mark had gone out somewhere. He was spending more and more time away from the home. Mom was worried about him, I could tell. By now she was also bugged about where he was getting the money he kept bringing home. I still figured he was doing some serious poker playing, but I didn't want to tell Mom that, as she didn't have too high an opinion of poker or gambling in general. Me getting mixed up in that pool hustling business hadn't done much to glorify gambling either. "I just love your mother," Kathy said as we left the house. She and Mom were getting along pretty good. This was fine with me, as I dug her parents okay, too. Right now, Kathy was hacked off at her old man. She blamed him for Eminem's running away. but I like the guy. Most people do, I said. She knows everybody within 20 miles of here. The mailman brings her all the stray kittens he finds, and the neighborhood grocer gives her free cat food. We were feeling real good driving to the hippie house. We laughed and kidded and horsed around all the way. I figured we had a pretty good chance of coming home with M&M this time. There were two Volkswagen buses parked in the driveway of the old house. I knew they belonged to the hippies because of the flowers and slogans painted on them. One read, "War is unhealthy for children and other living things," really bright. "This is where he is?" Kathy sighed. "I can hardly believe that baby is living in a place like this. I guess big sisters always think of little brothers as babies, no matter how old they are. Maybe it was good for him," I said. "Maybe being on his own made him grow up a little." I only half believed this. I had always had a good opinion of Eminem's mind, but being smart ain't being mature, as I have often proved. Anyway, we can't be sure he even wants to come home with us. If he doesn't, Daddy is going to call the cops and have them bring him home. He doesn't want to, but he keeps saying Eminem has had his fling, and it's time he came home. This is my only chance to get him home without dragging the police into it. I didn't know that. Well, let's hope he comes with us. Maybe I could slug him and carry him home. I didn't know that. Well, let's hope he comes with us. Maybe I could. Kathy laughed. No, let the cops do it if it comes to that. I'd rather have him hate the police than you. We walked up to the house. There were kids on the porch just watching the street. I stopped to talk with a biblical-looking guy. "I'm looking for Baby Freak. He around?" "Yeah, he is." The guy was staring directly into my eyes. He had friendly, trusting eyes. "Are you a friend of his?" "Yeah, a good friend. This is his sister." Kathy gave him the big smile she won me with. The guy smiled back. "He's upstairs, I think." Suddenly the guy looked worried. "He's been floating for a couple of days now." "Oh, no kidding?" I said, keeping my cool, and Kathy followed my example. "Talk to his travel agent," the hippie said. "He's the cat with the red hair inside." "Travel agent? What's that?" Kathy whispered as we went in. I didn't want to tell her. Didn't want her to feel the sudden cold waves of fear that I was feeling, so I said, "I don't know." We found who we were looking for, a big, heavy guy with fire-colored hair, beard, and mustache. "We're looking for Baby Freak," I said. I was beginning to see why Eminem had acquired his other nickname. Most of the kids there were at least 17 or 18, with a lot of college-age kids. It was a real crowded place, but now I can't remember what everyone was doing. At least some of the kids were smoking grass. You could tell by the smell. I was hoping the place didn't get raided while we were there. You can get busted just for being at a place where people are smoking pot. "Yeah," Red said. "Man, that kid is on a bad trip." Kathy made a funny, yelping little sound. "Some of these freaks have been dropping acid. Baby wanted to try it, so I sat with him. Bad trip, man. Really bad. He's calmed down a little now, but all day today, me and some of these other cats been holding him, keeping him from jumping out the window." I felt like I was going to throw up. Kathy was as white as a sheet. "Can we see him?" she said, in a tiny, expressionless voice. "Sure." We followed him up the stairs. He led us to the same room Mark and I had gone to the last time we were there. This time no one was there except the blonde chick, who was curled up on the bed asleep, and someone huddled in the corner. To my surprise, Red walked over to the huddle. "Hey, man, there's people here to see you," he said softly. "Are they spiders?" The person didn't raise his head, but the voice was Eminem's. "No, man," Red laughed gently. "They're squares." Eminem looked up, and I hardly recognized him. His hair was to his shoulders. He was a lot thinner. He was dirty, and the expression on his face was one I had never seen on him before. Suspicion. "Eminem, baby, it's me, Kathy." Kathy kneeled down in front of him. He was staring at her, not seeing her. "Square spiders?" he said, and his face was contorted in fear. "I don't want to see any spiders." "It's me, Kathy," she said again. "Your sister. Don't you want to go home?" "I went to my stomach," Eminem said in a high, unnatural voice. He was talking so fast. "I went down into my stomach, and all these spiders came out. I never knew there were spiders in my stomach. I was there 10 years, and all that time, these spiders kept chewing on me. They were big spiders." Kathy choked back a sob. "Baby, what have you done to yourself?" she said in a whisper. He seemed to see her. "Kathy?" I screamed and screamed and screamed, but nobody came to help me. He was shaking. He didn't look right. He looked sick. I kept trying to get back, but the spiders held me down and chewed on me, and colors went in and out. I listened to the colors, and they were screaming too. Red and yellow screamed loudest. The spiders were eating them too. He kept trying to jump out the window, Red said. All day, we took turns holding him down. What did the guy want, a medal? He had given him the stuff in the first place. "Kathy," I said, "we ought to take him to the hospital." She looked at me quickly. "Hospital?" Then she nodded. "Let me call Daddy first." She looked at Red. "Do you have a phone I can use?" She followed him out of the room. "There was this other color," Eminem said to me seriously, but half afraid, as if he thought I'd turn into a spider any minute. I don't know its name. It told me, but I forgot. It said I was being paid back for all the carrots I ate. I didn't know. I didn't know about the carrots before. I don't think it was my fault. He was crying. Tears were pouring down his face, but he hadn't changed his expression. He looked so thin and scared. Not a bit like Eminem, the Eminem I knew. Do you think I should be paid back for something I didn't know about? No, I said, clearing my throat. I don't think it was your fault. I put my arm around him and held him. He was shaking real bad. Kathy came back. Daddy's going to meet us at the hospital. Can you carry him? Yeah, I said. I picked him up easily. He couldn't have weighed more than 90 pounds. I'm so tired, Eminem said. I was gone so long and I didn't have any sleep. I carried him down the stairs and out of that house. Nobody made any move to stop me. Nobody seemed to care. Kathy drove us to the hospital. Halfway there, Eminem started suddenly and screamed, Where am I? It's okay, kid. You're going to be okay. Where am I? He was screaming in terror. Why don't I know where I am? I was just sick. I didn't know how Kathy was managing to drive the car. I never felt so bad before. I just held on to Eminem. There wasn't any sense in trying to talk to him. I felt then that he was as much my little brother as Kathy's. That's how bad I felt. Mr. Carlson was waiting for us at the hospital. We drove right up to the emergency entrance, and there he was. I got out and picked Eminem up again, but I didn't have him for long. Mr. Carlson took him and carried him into the hospital, holding him very close, very tight. Eminem was telling him about the spiders.